I said, quickly jump in the boat. Nobody moved. One of them yelled at me, "Did I hear you say you were coming back?" Then one of the Marines said, if you come back, bring us some rifles. And somebody in the back there yelled,
Eddie Albert was one of those rare Hollywood figures whose life felt bigger and more dramatic than the roles he played on screen. Most people remember him as a cheerful and slightly confused farmer from the classic TV show Green Acres. But his real-life story goes far beyond comedy and entertainment. He lived through poverty, the Great Depression, war, fame, and personal loss, yet still managed to stay active in Hollywood for decades. What makes his story so powerful is a contrast between his light screen image and the deep courage he showed in real life. This article explores his journey in simple words, from his early childhood struggles to his rise in Hollywood and his surprising heroism during World War II. Eddie Albert's life is not just about acting. It is about survival, bravery, and finding purpose in unexpected places. When we look closely at his story, we see a man who kept moving forward even when life kept pushing him back. His journey is also a reminder that heroes are not always born in uniform or on battlefields. Sometimes they're found on movie sets, in small towns, or even in everyday people who choose to do the right thing when it matters most. This is why Eddie Albert's story continues to inspire audiences even today, many years after his time in the spotlight. Eddie Albert was born in 1906 in Illinois, but he grew up mainly in Minnesota, where life was not easy for his family. His real name was Edward Albert Heimberger, and he came from a simple working-class household. His father worked in real estate, and his mother took care of the home and children. Eddie was the oldest of 5 kids, which meant he often had extra responsibility at a young age. Life became even harder when the family struggled financially, and young Eddie had to help support the household. He sold newspapers and did small jobs just to bring in a little money. At school, he sometimes faced teasing because of his German-sounding last name, especially during the time of World War I when people were suspicious of German names. Instead of letting this break him, Eddie slowly began to build confidence through school activities. He discovered drama and performing arts in high school, where he realized that he enjoyed acting and entertaining people. This was a turning point in his life because it gave him something positive to focus on. Even though he did not come from a wealthy or famous background, he showed early signs of determination and creativity. After finishing high school, he continued studying and working small jobs to survive, including singing and performing in small groups. These early years shaped his personality deeply. They taught him discipline, patience, and how to face rejection without giving up. Many future actors struggle in their early lives, but Eddie's childhood was especially challenging, and that made his later success even more meaningful as a young adult. Eddie Albert faced many struggles while trying to build a career in entertainment. After leaving college during the difficult economic times of the Great Depression, he had to take whatever work he could find. Jobs were not stable, and he moved between different types of work, including sales jobs, singing performances, and small stage acts. At one point, he even worked as a radio entertainer, where his voice and humor helped him gain small opportunities. However, success did not come quickly. He faced rejection many times and had to keep rebuilding his path from scratch. One interesting moment in his early career was when radio announcers kept mispronouncing his long last name. This became frustrating for him, and eventually he decided to simplify it by using his middle name, Albert. This change marked a new beginning in his professional life. He started performing more confidently and slowly built recognition in small entertainment circles. He also joined performance groups and traveled for work, doing singing shows and comedy acts. These experiences helped him develop stage presence and communication skills. Although life was uncertain, Eddie never stopped performing or trying new opportunities. He believed that staying active in the entertainment world would eventually lead him somewhere better. His persistence finally led him toward Broadway, where he would get his first real break. But before that success arrived, he had already learned something important. Survival in show business requires patience, flexibility, and the ability to adapt to changing situations. The real turning point for Eddie Albert came when he entered Broadway and later moved toward Hollywood. On stage, he began to gain attention for his natural acting style and charming personality. His performances helped him stand out during a time when theater was a major form of entertainment. Eventually, Hollywood noticed his talent and offered him opportunities in films. One of his early film connections was with Brother Rat, which also involved future major stars. Around this time, his career began to rise, but it was still not smooth. Like many actors, he faced studio pressure and the strict control of the film industry. He worked under contracts that limited his freedom, and at times, personal misunderstandings affected his opportunities. Despite these challenges, he continued working in radio, theater, and film. What made Eddie different was his ability to keep adapting. He was not only an actor, but also a singer and performer, which gave him more ways to survive in the entertainment world. During this period, he became more confident and established his identity in Hollywood. However, fame did not come without setbacks. There were moments when his career slowed down, and he had to explore other interests outside acting. One of these interests was sailing, which would later unexpectedly connect to a much more serious chapter in his life. By the time Hollywood fully recognized his talent, Eddie Albert had already built a strong foundation of skills and resilience that would help him face the most dangerous challenge of his life, World War II. When World War II began, Eddie Albert made a decision that changed his life completely. Instead of staying in Hollywood, he chose to serve his country. He first joined the U.S. Coast Guard and later moved to the Navy, where he served with great courage. During his service, he was involved in one of the most intense battles in the Pacific. One of the most powerful parts of his story is how he helped rescue wounded soldiers under enemy fire. During the battle, chaos surrounded him, explosions, gunfire, and dangerous waters. But he continued to go back again and again to save Marines who were trapped. Reports say he helped rescue more than 100 soldiers, showing incredible bravery under extreme conditions. He did not act like a Hollywood star during the war. Instead, he acted like a dedicated soldier who cared deeply about human life. His actions earned him respect and military recognition, including the Bronze Star. What makes this story even more powerful is the emotional impact it had on him. Even though he was praised as a hero, he also carried painful memories of loss and survival that stayed with him long after the war ended. This experience changed his outlook on life forever. It also showed that real courage is not about fame or recognition, but about making difficult choices in dangerous moments. Eddie Albert's war service remains one of the most inspiring parts of his life story and continues to surprise people who only know him as a television actor. After the war, Eddie Albert returned to Hollywood and rebuilt his career with new strength and maturity. He married Mexican actress Margot, and together they built a long and supportive relationship that lasted for decades. Their life included both success and challenges, especially as they raised a family and continued working in the entertainment industry. Eddie appeared in several major films during this time, including Roman Holiday and The Longest Day, where he worked alongside some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. His acting skills became more respected, and he earned an Academy Award nomination for his performance. At the same time, he and his wife also faced difficulties, including political pressure in Hollywood that affected their work opportunities. Despite this, they continued to perform together and even created stage acts to stay active in the industry. Their partnership showed strong emotional support and teamwork. Eddie also became a father, and his children later followed creative paths in acting and entertainment. Through all these years, he balanced family life with a busy career, which was not easy in Hollywood's demanding environment. His ability to stay grounded despite fame made him stand out from many other actors of his time. He was not just focused on success, but also on building a stable and meaningful personal life. This balance between work, family, and creativity became an important part of his identity. The final and most famous chapter of Eddie Albert's career came with the television series Green Acres. In this show, he played a city lawyer who moves to a rural farm life, creating a humorous contrast that audiences loved. The show became extremely popular in the 1960s and made Eddie a household name. What made his performance special was how naturally he portrayed confusion, patience, and humor in everyday situations. Even though the show was comedic, it reflected a deeper idea: the struggle between modern life and simple living. While many people saw him only as a comedy actor during this time, his real-life story still carried the weight of his earlier experiences in war and struggle. As he aged, Eddie continued to work in films and television, but he also became respected as a veteran actor with a long and meaningful career. His legacy is not just about entertainment, but also about courage, resilience, and humanity. He showed that a person can live many lives in one lifetime. Soldier, actor, husband, father, and survivor. Even today, his story continues to inspire people because it proves that success is not always a straight path. Sometimes it is a journey filled with setbacks, bravery, and unexpected turns. Eddie Albert's life reminds us that real heroes often live quietly among us, sometimes making us laugh on screen, while carrying extraordinary stories in real life. The final stage of Eddie Albert's life and career showed a man who had already lived through more experiences than most people could imagine, yet he continued to stay active, creative, and deeply connected to both his family and his profession. After the success of Green Acres, he did not simply disappear from the entertainment world. Instead, he kept working in films and television, taking on roles that showed his wide range as an actor. Even in his later years, he was respected in Hollywood not just for his fame, but for his long history of discipline and professionalism. Many younger actors looked up to him because he had lived through the early struggles of the film industry, the golden age of Hollywood, and the rise of television, which gave him a rare kind of wisdom. At the same time, he became more selective with his roles, choosing projects that interested him rather than chasing popularity. This showed how much he had grown over the years, from a young man struggling for survival during the Great Depression to an established figure who valued meaning over fame. Outside of acting, Eddie also became more involved in environmental awareness and social causes, showing that his interest in life extended beyond the screen. He cared about nature, communities, and the world he lived in, which reflected his thoughtful personality. Even though he was known for comedy, his real-life character was serious, reflective, and deeply human. As time passed, he gradually stepped away from major acting roles, but his influence remained strong in Hollywood. His journey during these later years was not about fame anymore, but about legacy, contribution, and living with purpose after achieving success. As Eddie Albert grew older, his family life became one of the most important parts of his world. His marriage to actress Margot remained a central pillar of his personal life, built on mutual respect, shared creativity, and emotional support. Together, they had faced many ups and downs, including career challenges and political pressures, but they always remained committed to each other. Their relationship stood out in Hollywood, where long marriages were often rare. They also raised their children in an environment that encouraged creativity and independence. One of their children, Edward Albert Jr., followed in his parents' footsteps and entered the acting world, showing that the artistic spirit continued in the family. Eddie was not just a father in name. He was actively involved in his children's lives, guiding them through both personal and professional challenges. Even when his career was busy, he made time for family, which reflected his grounded nature. However, life also brought sorrow when his wife Margot passed away in 1985. This was one of the most difficult moments in his life, as they had shared decades together. Despite this loss, Eddie continued to carry himself with dignity and strength, focusing on his family and work rather than withdrawing from life completely. This period showed his emotional resilience. He did not let grief define him, but instead continued moving forward while keeping the memory of his wife close. His later years reflected a quiet strength, where family, memory, and personal values became more important than public attention or fame. The legacy of Eddie Albert is not limited to his acting career or his famous television roles. It is deeply connected to his real-life actions, especially his bravery during World War II and his commitment to helping others. Many people who only know him as the funny farmer from Green Acres are often surprised to learn about his military service and the courage he showed in battle. Saving wounded soldiers under enemy fire is not something most actors are known for, and this part of his life added a powerful layer to his identity. It shows that his heroism was not fictional. It was real, tested under extreme danger. In Hollywood history, he stands out as someone who successfully balanced entertainment and real-world service. He was able to move between comedy and serious drama, between stage performance and battlefield courage, without losing his identity. Over time, his contributions to film and television earned him lasting respect, but his character earned him admiration. Even after his death, his story continues to be shared because it offers more than entertainment. It offers inspiration. People see in Eddie Albert a reminder that life is not defined by one role or one success. Instead, it is shaped by choices, courage, and how a person responds to challenges. His journey continues to be used in documentaries, biographies, and storytelling videos because it carries emotional depth and historical importance. In the end, Eddie Albert left behind a life story that feels almost like a complete film script, filled with struggle, bravery, success, loss, and meaning. From a young boy selling newspapers in Minnesota to a respected Hollywood actor and war hero, his journey shows how unpredictable life can be. He never followed a simple path, and his success did not come without hardship. Instead, every stage of his life added something new to his character. His early struggles taught him resilience, his entertainment career taught him creativity, and his war experience taught him courage and sacrifice. Later, his family life taught him love, patience, and emotional strength. All of these parts came together to form a legacy that still feels alive today. Even though many years have passed since his peak fame, his story continues to connect with new audiences because it is easy to understand and deeply human. It shows that greatness is not always about wealth or fame, but about character and action. Eddie Albert's life reminds us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when faced with the right moment. Whether on a battlefield or in front of camera, he carried himself with dedication and heart. That is why his story continues to matter, not just as Hollywood history, but as a timeless example of what it means to live with courage, purpose, and humanity. At this stage, the story of Eddie Albert begins to feel less like a typical Hollywood biography and more like a reflection on a full human life that touched